So I have a funny story about recording in a commercial studio. I believe it was either the first or second session that I ever did at Sound Investments. And we were recording a guy that day by the name of George Wesley, who is no longer with us. He was a reggae guitarist, but he also did like blues stuff and rock stuff, but he was more than reggae.
Yeah.
And
I saw him a couple times. Great musician.
Just sick guitarist.
Yeah.
Like, and it's super, super, super nice guy.
Great
Every time
guy,
I ever
yeah.
met him, he was like salt of the earth to me. We were in the studio and George is, laying down some tracks and they're like amazing. Everything's like one take. It was effortless. It was like, yeah, okay. Because even at that time, this was 2004, he'd already been doing it for 30 years at that point. So, I mean, like,
right.
So he lays down a couple tracks, comes in, he listens. And we had a lounge in the studio. George said, I'm going to go out to the lounge and check the altitude, Wiggy. If you know what that means. And he invited me and the other intern at the time and asked us if we wanted to come out with him. And all I heard Wiggy yell from behind the console was, George, don't get the intern stoned. My other story about working at the studio, and this is a classic one. I've told this a million times to all my friends, but I've never revealed it on this podcast. And I don't think I'll be incriminating anybody because A, I don't remember the person's name, and B, it happened so long ago that even if the person found out about this, I don't think it would matter.
Right.
But we would occasionally get sessions in where we would have rappers come in, and they would bring in samples, they would bring in beats, and they would rap over them. Great, fine. We had some really great ones come in. They were like, wow, you're really good, man. This is some good stuff. But more often than not, unfortunately, we had some horrible ones come in. This day, we had a horrible one come in. He was this kid, and he was just the stereotypical, like, Eminem wannabe rapper. He had, like, the jersey on, the baggy shorts, the backwards cap, the fake gold chain. Like, it was like Build a Rapper.
Build a Rapper.
It was like Build a Rapper, white boy edition.
That's awesome.
So the kid came in, and he had two of his buddies with him, and that was like his posse. So they're in the studio, and they're starting to do their thing, and they wanted to record a skit track first. Now, I don't know how many of our listeners have listened to rap music, but on rap albums, one of the recurring themes of rap albums, especially from the late 80s, early 90s, is they would have skits on them. And what it would be is like, little dialogue things or things that, added to the story if the album had a theme or whatever. And most of the time, they're usually lighthearted, funny, whatever. And this was one of those kind of lighthearted, funny ones. So they get in the studio, and him and his two friends are standing around the mic. We had this very expensive mic in the studio. It's a Lawson mic. This guy named Gene Lawson makes these amazing, amazing microphones. I mean, they're fantastic. And we used that as our main vocal mic at that time. And this thing cost like almost $5 or $6 grand or something like that. So they're starting to do their skit and they're talking, and the skit is about how this kid they knew sold them bad weed. And they were standing around the mic and they're smoking a blunt and passing the blunt around.
Oh my God.
And they're blowing the blunt smoke into the microphone. And Wiggy had to get on a talkback mic and say, guys, please don't blow blunt smoke onto the $6,000 microphone, okay? They're like, oh, okay, sorry. So then after that, they kept doing the skit, so they did it again. Like I said, the skit was about like how some kid they knew sold them bad pot or something like that. And so they got done with the skit. And then at the end of the skit, we hear on the mic the one guy talking back to her, is that your brother that sells the bad pot? Like it got all serious for a second. It's like, okay. That was the skit. And so then the kids' two friends come out and they come in the control room and they're listening like, yeah, that was dope. That was cool. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Then the kid starts rapping. And I mean, it was bad. No flow, no feel, just nothing. It was awful. It was like And listen, I'm not a rapper, but I also wouldn't attempt to be because right. I know that I can't do it.
You know your abilities.
I know. I stay in my lane, folks.
Yeah.
4-chord power pop for me. No. But anyway, he records a couple things and he's like, all right. And then Wiggy's like, yeah, you want to come in and listen? He's like, yeah, man. And so he comes in the control room and he's sitting there in between Wiggy and I. And he's like vibing on his, he's feeling himself. He's totally feeling himself. Like he thinks he's Jay-Z right now. And it's like, not even close, dude. You're not getting 5 mics from the source for this song. But anyway, he's sitting there, he's vibing on his stuff, whatever. And so Wiggy and I, we try to kind of break the ice a little bit. Wiggy will, say, so hey, what's going on? Where are you from? Whatever. And so then Wiggy asked the kid, he's like, so, where are you from? The kid looks at Wiggy straight faced and goes, I'm from A-Town. So then I say, oh, cool, you're from Atlanta. And he goes, no, Archibald.
A-Town.
I almost bit my tongue in half from trying not to laugh.
A-Town.
Wiggy turned the other way, like his face turned red. It was like...
Now, how old was this kid?
He was, at that time, like, he looked like he was probably maybe his late 20s or something. He was probably like 40. He was probably 40 something. And he was like, looked like he was in his 20s.
40 with a do-rag.
It was ridiculous. Oh my God. And we laugh about that to this day. And the funny thing is I now live in Archibald, Pennsylvania.
You live in A-Town.
So I live in A-Town. And I can attest to you that there are no mean streets in Archibald, Pennsylvania. At least not that I've seen.
Did he rap about mean streets?
Yes, he did. Like his raps made Trenton, New Jersey sound friendlier than Archibald.
Oh my goodness.
Which, yeah, no, not at all.
That's excellent. I would love to hear that session.
That was some of my funny stories from the studio.